The twin boys couldn't have been more than 4 years old, standing in the middle of Riverside Park's main walkway, their identical faces contorted in synchronized grief. Both wore miniature navy suits with crisp white shirts, their dark curly hair perfectly styled despite the tears streaming down their cheeks. Hundreds of joggers and tourists flowed around them like water around stones. Nobody stopping, nobody even slowing down. The unspoken rule of the city. Expensive-looking children with invisible security nearby weren't your problem. But I'd never been good at following New York's unwritten rules. "Hey, sweethearts," I said, dropping to my knees on the concrete path, feeling the rough surface bite through my worn jeans. "Are you lost? Where are your parents?" 2 pairs of terrified dark eyes locked onto me. The boy on the left opened his mouth and wailed something I couldn't understand. Not English. His brother joined in, their voices rising in perfect, heartbreaking harmony. I tried Spanish. Years of working with international clients as a freelance translator had given me decent conversational skills. "¿Dónde está tu mamá?" They cried harder, clutching each other. Then I caught it. One word, repeated between sobs. "Mama." Not mama. Mama. Italian. I'd stumbled into Italian almost by accident. A semester abroad in Rome during college, chasing a romance that fizzled but left me with a language that stuck. I'd kept it alive through evening classes and Italian film marathons because it reminded me of a version of myself who'd been fearless once, who'd believed the world was bigger than student debt and my father's medical bills. Now that random skill was about to change everything. "Non piangete, piccoli," I said softly, switching to Italian. "Don't cry, little ones. Sono qui. Come vi chiamate." "I'm here. What are your names?" Both boys froze mid-sob. Their eyes went wide with shock and desperate hope. "Leo," the one on the left whispered, pointing to himself. "Louis e Matteo." "He's Matteo." "Va bene Leo e Matteo," I said, opening my arms instinctively. They crashed into me without hesitation, their small bodies shaking. "Troveremo il vostro papà, promesso." "We'll find your papa, I promise." Their Italian tumbled out in a chaotic rush. They'd been walking with their guards. They'd seen a spotted dog. Matteo had chased it, Leo had followed, and now they couldn't find anyone they knew, and everyone kept walking past them. And what if Papa thought they'd been taken? "Shh, shh. Va tutto bene," I murmured, stroking their identical curls. "Restiamo insieme, sì? Non vi lascio." "It's okay. We stay together, yes? I won't leave you." Leo gripped my hand with surprising strength. Matteo buried his face against my shoulder, his tears soaking through my cheap cotton blouse. "Before we continue, please tell us where you are watching from, and what's the time over there. And do not forget to like and subscribe so you get notified when we upload another story. Now let's get started." I looked up, scanning the park, trying to spot security or police. Then I saw them. 4 men in black tactical gear, moving through the crowd with the kind of precision that screamed military training. They weren't searching casually, they were hunting. One spoke rapidly into his wrist, his hand hovering near his hip where I could just make out the outline of a concealed weapon. My stomach dropped. These weren't mall security guards. "Leo, quegli uomini sono con vostro padre?" I asked carefully. "Leo, are those men with your father?" Both boys looked, their faces transformed from fear to pure relief. "Sì, e Marco. E Dante." Matteo started waving frantically. "Siamo qui. Siamo qui. We're here, we're here." The men's heads snapped toward us. One of them, Marco, apparently broke into a run. The others fell into formation behind him, hands on their weapons. And behind them, cutting through the crowd like a shark through water, came a 6th man. Even from 50 feet away, I could tell he was different, taller, broader, moving with the kind of controlled violence that made people instinctively step aside without knowing why. His white shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms covered in dense black ink, dark hair slicked back, a face that could have been carved from marble if marble could look furious and terrified at the same time. The twins' grip on me tightened. "Papa," they whispered in unison. The man's eyes locked onto his sons, then onto me. His expression flickered through a dozen emotions in 2 seconds. Relief, confusion, suspicion, something else I couldn't name. He stopped 10 feet away. His security detail fanned out around us, boxing us in without seeming to. The man, their father, stared at his sons, clinging to a complete stranger. At me, kneeling on the concrete in my translator's uniform of jeans and a wrinkled blouse, with his airs wrapped around me like I was the only safe thing in the world. When he spoke, his voice was rough, accented, dangerous. "Who the hell are you?" Before I could answer, Leo piped up in rapid Italian. "Papà, lei parla con mamma. Si è trovati. Ha detto che non si avrebbe lasciati. Papà, she speaks like mama. She found us. She said she wouldn't leave us." Something shifted in the man's expression. His eyes narrowed, dragging over me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. He said something sharp in Italian to his men too fast for me to catch, and one of them immediately pulled out a phone. Then he crouched down to my level. This close I could see the details, the tattoos crawling up his neck, the small scar through his eyebrow, the absolutely lethal focus in his dark eyes. "You speak Italian," he said, not a question. "Yes." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Where did you learn?" "Rome. I studied there. And you just happened to be here today, when my sons needed someone who speaks their mother's language." The implication hit me like cold water. "I'm a translator. I was walking home from a job. I saw 2 kids crying and I stopped. That's it." He stared at me for a long moment. The twins were still clinging to me, and I could feel their little hearts racing against my ribs. Finally, he stood, looked down at me like I was a puzzle he intended to solve. "Marco," he said, not taking his eyes off me. "Get her information. All of it. Wait. You've done me a service," he continued, his voice silk over steel. "I don't leave debts unpaid, and I don't let mysteries walk away." He held out his hand to his sons. They hesitated, looking at me with pleading eyes. "Vai piccoli," I said softly. "Il vostro papà è qui ora." "Go, little ones. Your papa is here now." Reluctantly, they let go. But as they took their father's hands, Leo looked back at me and said something that made every man around us go still. "Tornerai vero? Come faceva mamma. You'll come back, right? Like mama used to." The father's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes did. Something cold and calculating and utterly focused. "What's your name?" he asked me. "Mercy. Mercy Cooper." He nodded once, like he was filing it away. Then he turned and walked away, his sons between him and his guards, leaving me kneeling on the concrete. Marco, the security guard, smiled apologetically as he handed me a business card and pulled out a tablet. "I'm sorry, Miss Cooper. This won't take long. Just a few questions." I looked down at the card. No name, no title, just a phone number in embossed black ink, and underneath it, in small print, Ramirez Holdings. That night, alone in my cramped apartment with my father's medical debt notices spread across my kitchen table, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Miss Cooper." That voice. The father. "My name is Sanchez Ramirez. We need to talk about my sons." The address Sanchez texted me wasn't in Manhattan. It was in a part of Westchester I'd only seen in magazine spreads about old money and new fortunes. The kind of neighborhood where the driveways were longer than my street and the gates had intercoms with cameras that probably ran facial recognition. The Uber driver's hands tightened on the wheel as we approached the address. "You sure this is right?" he asked, eyeing the 12-foot stone wall that seemed to stretch for a full city block. "I'm sure," I said, though my stomach was doing backflips. He dropped me at the front gate and sped away before I could tip him in cash. A camera swiveled toward me, red light blinking. The intercom crackled. "Miss Cooper, please proceed through the gate." The iron gates swung open with the kind of expensive silence that said they probably cost more than a car. I walked up the cobblestone drive, my worn flats making soft scuffing sounds that felt too loud. Trees lined both sides, old ones, thick-trunked and carefully maintained. Through the leaves, I caught glimpses of men. Not gardeners. Men in tactical gear with rifles held in ready positions, watching the perimeter. My mouth went dry. The house appeared around a curve, and I stopped walking. House wasn't the right word. Mansion felt inadequate. It was a modern fortress built to look like a Mediterranean villa, all stone and glass and sharp angles, with balconies overlooking manicured grounds that could have hosted a soccer tournament. More armed guards stood at the entrance, earpieces visible, hands resting casually near their weapons. One of them, Marco from the park, stepped forward with that same apologetic smile. "Miss Cooper, thank you for coming. Mr. Ramirez is waiting." "This is insane," I muttered. "You get used to it," Marco said, which somehow made it worse. He led me through doors that probably weighed more than me, into a foyer with vaulted ceilings and a chandelier that looked like frozen starlight. My reflection stared back from polished marble floors, and I suddenly felt acutely aware of my Target jeans and thrift store blazer. We passed rooms I could only glimpse. A dining room with a table that could seat 20. A library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. A living room with furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. Everything was pristine. Everything was expensive. Everything screamed wealth maintained by people who knew what they were doing. Marco stopped at a heavy wooden door, knocked twice, and pushed it open. "Miss Cooper, sir." The office was dark wood and leather, walls lined with books in Spanish and English. Behind a massive desk sat Sanchez Ramirez, looking somehow more dangerous in his own territory. He'd changed into a black button-down rolled to his elbows, those tattoos on full display. His dark eyes tracked me as I walked in, and I felt dissected. "Sit," he said, not an invitation. I sat in the leather chair across from him, gripping my purse like a shield. He slid a manila folder across the desk toward me. My name was printed on the tab. "Open it." My hands shook as I did. Inside were printouts, my college transcripts, my work history, my father's hospital records and the debt left behind when he died 8 months ago, my lease agreement, my bank statements showing the $23 currently in my checking account, my social media accounts, all 3 followers. A background check so thorough it included a speeding ticket from when I was 19. "You had me investigated." My voice came out flat. "I have everyone investigated who comes within 10 feet of my sons," Sanchez said. "You have no criminal record, no suspicious associations, no debt to anyone except medical creditors." He leaned back, studying me. "You're exactly what you appear to be, a broke translator with good intentions. Then why am I here? Because my sons haven't stopped asking for you since yesterday. Because they haven't cried once since I brought them home, and they've done nothing but cry for 6 months. His jaw tightened. "Because 17 nannies have quit in 4 months, Miss Cooper." 17. I blinked. 17? Leo bit the last one. Mateo locked the one before that in a closet. "They've destroyed 3 tablets, 2 laptops, and 1 woman's designer handbag by filling it with yogurt." He stood, moving to the window overlooking the grounds. "Their mother died 6 months ago. Cancer. She was the only one who could control them. She spoke to them in Italian, read to them in Italian, sang to them in Italian. When she died, they lost the only person who truly understood them." "I'm sorry," I said quietly, "but I'm not a nanny. I don't have experience with... I don't need experience. I need someone they'll listen to." He turned, and the intensity in his eyes pinned me to the chair. "Yesterday they clung to you. A stranger. Because you spoke their mother's language. Because you didn't walk past them like everyone else. Mr. Ramirez." "Sanchez," he corrected. "And I'm not asking you to be their mother. I'm asking you to be their governess. Live here. Manage their education, their daily routine, their emotional well-being. 6 months. I can't just move in with, 'I'll pay off your debt.'" He said it casually, like he was offering to cover coffee. "All $68,000 of it, plus a salary of $10,000 a month." The air left my lungs. "That's $128,000 total." He moved back to the desk, pulling out a contract. 6 months. You walk away debt-free with $60,000 in savings. I stared at the paper, at the number typed in clean black ink. That money would save my childhood home, would let me actually build a career instead of scrambling for translation gigs that barely covered rent, would change everything. "Why so much?" I asked. "You could hire someone qualified for a fraction of..." "Because qualified people don't last," he interrupted. "Because my sons need someone they actually want around. Because you're the first person in 6 months who made them feel safe." He slid a pen across the desk. "And because I need to know they're protected while I'm handling business that requires my full attention." "What kind of business?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. "The kind you don't ask about, Miss Cooper. That's rule number 1 if you take this job." I should have walked out, should have run. Every instinct I had was screaming that this was dangerous. That getting involved with whatever Sanchez Ramirez actually did for a living was the kind of mistake you didn't recover from. But I thought about my father's house. The one my mother had picked out when I was 3. The one I was 2 months from losing. I thought about eating ramen for dinner again tonight because my checking account was almost empty. I thought about Leo and Mateo's faces when I'd spoken to them in Italian. That desperate relief. I picked up the pen. "I have conditions," I said. "I want my own room with a lock on the door. I want the ability to leave the property when I'm not working. And I want it in writing that I can terminate this arrangement at any time if I feel unsafe." Sanchez studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Agreed. Marco will add amendments. Anything else? What happened to the 17 nannies? Really? Most quit because my sons terrorized them. He leaned forward, forearms on the desk, tattoos flexing. 2 quit because they realized what I am and what that means for everyone in this house. 1 tried to sell information about my family to a competitor. His expression went cold. She's not a concern anymore. I swallowed hard. And you're telling me this because you should know exactly what you're walking into. He held my gaze. This isn't a fairy tale, Miss Cooper. My sons are angels. I am not. People want me dead. By extension, they want my sons dead. You'll be living in a fortress for a reason. Then why bring me into it at all? Because they need someone. His voice cracked, just slightly, just enough to remind me he was a father before he was anything else. And you're the first person they've wanted since their mother died. I looked down at the contract. At the number that would change my life. At the 6-month term that suddenly felt like a lifetime. Then I signed my name. I moved in 3 days later with everything I owned fitting into 2 suitcases and a backpack. Marco showed me to my room on the 2nd floor, a suite bigger than my entire apartment, with its own bathroom done in marble and a balcony overlooking gardens I hadn't even seen yet. The lock I'd requested was already installed, solid and new. The twins found me before I'd finished unpacking. Mercy! They burst through my door without knocking, launching themselves at me with the kind of enthusiasm that nearly knocked me over. Leo grabbed my hand while Matteo tugged at my shirt, both talking over each other in rapid Italian. Papa ha detto che rimani, ci abiterai qui con noi, è vero, per sempre? Papa said you're staying, that you'll live here with us. Is it true? Forever? Per un po', I corrected gently, kneeling to their level. For a while. 6 months. I didn't know how to explain the contract to 4-year-olds, didn't want to reduce their hope to a transaction. Ci leggerai la storia? Come faceva, Mama? Will you read us stories? Like Mama did? Matteo's dark eyes were so hopeful it physically hurt. See, of course, I said. Ogni sera se volete. Every night if you want. They cheered, grabbing my hands and pulling me toward the door. Devi vedere la nostra stanza. Abbiamo dei libri che Mama si leggeva. You have to see our room. We have books that Mama used to read to us. Their bedroom was down the hall, a space decorated in soft blues and grays with 2 identical beds, shelves overflowing with toys that looked barely touched, and an entire wall of books. Most were in Italian. I pulled one out, a worn copy of Pinocchio with a cracked spine and pages soft from repeated reading. Questo era il suo preferito, Leo whispered, touching the cover reverently. This was her favorite. Mama lo leggeva con voci diverse per ogni personaggio. Mama read it with different voices for each character. I sat on the floor between their beds, and they immediately flanked me, pressed against my sides like they were afraid I'd disappear. I opened the book and started reading, doing my best to give each character a distinct voice. They laughed when I made Geppetto sound old and creaky, gasped when I made the fox sound sly. I was halfway through the 3rd chapter when I felt that prickle of being watched. I looked up and saw Sanchez standing in the doorway, one shoulder against the frame, arms crossed. His expression was unreadable, but something in his eyes looked almost wounded. The twins didn't notice him. They were lost in the story, in the Italian words that connected them to a mother they'd never stop missing. I kept reading until they started yawning, then closed the book. Domani leggiamo altro. See? Tomorrow we read more, yes? They nodded sleepily. I tucked them both in, kissing their foreheads like it was the most natural thing in the world. When I turned, Sanchez was gone. I found him 20 minutes later in his office, a glass of whiskey in his hand, staring at nothing. You should have told me you were there, I said from the doorway. He didn't look at me. It's my house. I go where I want. They would have wanted you to join us. They wouldn't have understood me. His voice was flat. I speak Italian poorly, menu Italian, tourist Italian. Their mother tried to teach me, but I didn't. He stopped, jaw tightening. I didn't think I'd need it. I stepped into the office, closing the door behind me. You're their father. They need you, not perfect grammar. They need someone who can speak their language, someone who understands what they're saying when they cry for their mother at night. He finally looked at me, and the rawness in his expression caught me off guard. Do you know what it's like? To hear your children sobbing and only understand every 3rd word? To know they're in pain and not be able to reach them? I moved closer, choosing my words carefully. Then learn, I can teach you. He laughed, bitter. I run an empire, Miss Cooper. I don't have time for language lessons. You had time to hire 17 nannies. You have time for this. I sat in the chair across from his desk, uninvited. 30 minutes a day. That's all I'm asking. The twins need their father, Sanchez. Not just the man who keeps them safe, but the one who can talk to them. They have you for that now. I'm temporary. You're permanent. I leaned forward. What happens when my 6 months are up and they lose another person who speaks their language? You want to put them through that again? Something flickered across his face. Surprise. Maybe that I'd challenge him. You're very bold for someone in my employment. You hired me because I don't walk away when I should. Boldness is part of the package. I softened my tone. Let me help. Not just with them, with this. He studied me for a long moment, swirling the whiskey in his glass. Why do you care? Because I watched my father die slowly, and I'd give anything for one more conversation with him. Because those boys upstairs worship you even when they can't tell you why. I held his gaze. Because you love them enough to bring a stranger into your fortress. That deserves better than resignation. Sanchez set down his glass with a soft click. 30 minutes. Every day. Every day I'm not traveling. Good enough. I stood. We start tomorrow. Breakfast with the twins. You're gonna learn how to ask them about their day, tell them you're proud of them, and say goodnight properly. You're very demanding. Miss Cooper. Mercy, I corrected. And yes, you'll get used to it. The next morning, I found Sanchez already at the breakfast table when I brought the twins down. He was dressed for business, dark suit, crisp shirt, but he'd waited. The twins climbed into their chairs, eyeing their father with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Buongiorno, ragazzi, he said carefully. The pronunciation was rough, the accent all wrong, but the twins' faces lit up like he'd given them the world. Buongiorno, papa, they chorused. He looked at me helplessly. I mouthed the next phrase. Come avete dormito? Come, avete dormito, he repeated. How did you sleep? Matteo launched into a rapid explanation of his dream about dinosaurs. Sanchez caught maybe half of it, but he nodded, asked, Davvero? In the right places, and when Matteo finished, he managed, Che bello. How nice. It was clumsy. It was imperfect. It was everything those boys needed. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched the barrier between father and sons begin to crack. Sanchez stumbled through breakfast conversations, massacred bedtime phrases, and occasionally mixed up his verbs so badly he told the twins he was swimming proud of them instead of very proud of them. They thought it was hilarious and corrected him with the kind of patience only children could have. But he showed up. Every morning. Every night he was home. 30 minutes became 40, then an hour. He started carrying a small notebook with phrases I'd written out phonetically. Once, I caught him in his office listening to Italian-language podcasts, scowling at his computer screen like he could intimidate the words into making sense. Papa sta imparando, Leo told me one afternoon, awe in his voice. Papa is learning. Per noi. For us. Si, I said, my throat tight. Perché vi ama molto. Because he loves you very much. That night I found Sanchez on one of the terraces, the city lights spread out below like scattered diamonds. He had that damn notebook in his hand. Mouthing words to himself. You're doing well, I said, joining him at the railing. I'm butchering a beautiful language. You're learning to talk to your sons. That's all that matters. I watched his profile, the hard line of his jaw softened by concentration. They notice, you know, every effort you make. Their mother would have been better at this. His voice was quiet. She was better at everything with them. Maybe. But she's not here, and you are. That counts for more than perfect grammar. He turned to look at me, something unreadable in his dark eyes. You've changed things here. In 2 weeks, you've changed everything. I just gave them what they needed. You gave us what we needed. He said it so softly I almost missed it. Thank you. Mercy. It was the first time he'd used my first name. Standing there in the dark with the city below and his sons safe inside, something shifted. Something dangerous and inevitable that I wasn't ready to name. I was supposed to be temporary. A 6-month solution to a permanent problem. But temporary was starting to feel like a lie we'd both agreed to tell ourselves. I couldn't sleep. 3 weeks in the Ramirez fortress and my body still hadn't adjusted to the silence. No traffic noise, no sirens, no neighbors arguing through paper-thin walls, just the whisper of expensive air conditioning and the occasional crackle of security radios outside. I gave up at 2 in the morning, pulling on sweatpants and a tank top before padding downstairs in bare feet. The kitchen was at the back of the house, a sprawling space of marble counters and professional-grade appliances that probably cost more than my college education. I was hunting for the kettle when I realized I wasn't alone. Sanchez stood at the island counter, illuminated only by the light from the open refrigerator. He was shirtless, wearing only black sleep pants slung low on his hips, his back to me. The tattoos I'd only glimpsed through rolled sleeves were on full display, a sprawling canvas of black ink that covered his shoulders, his spine, his ribs, script and symbols and images I couldn't quite make out in the dim light. I should have left. Should have backed out quietly and returned to my room. Instead, I heard myself say, "Can't sleep either?" He turned, unsurprised. Of course he'd known I was there. Men like Sanchez always knew. His chest was just as inked as his back, dark designs disappearing beneath the waistband of his pants. Up close, I could see the details, dates, names, intricate patterns that seemed to tell a story I wasn't sure I wanted to read. "The house is too quiet," he said, pulling out a bottle of water. "I'm used to the city." "Me too." I moved to the kettle, filling it at the sink, hyper-aware of him watching me. "I keep waiting for a car alarm or something. You'll adjust." He leaned against the counter, making no move to put on a shirt. The tattoos seemed to ripple as he moved, alive in the low light. "Or you won't. Most people don't." I set the kettle to boil, then turned to face him properly. We were maybe 6 feet apart. Too close and not close enough. And that thought alone should have sent me running. "Can I ask you something?" The words were out before I could stop them. "You're going to anyway." "Fair point." I gestured to the ink covering his torso. "The tattoos. Do they mean something? Or are they just decoration?" His mouth curved, but there was no humor in it. "No, Mercy, they're not decoration." He pushed off the counter, moving closer. Not threatening, but deliberate. He stopped an arm's length away and held out his right forearm. In the better light, I could see what looked like a row of small tally marks, each one precise and identical. "These," he said, his voice quiet and dangerous, "are debts, collected in full." My mouth went dry. Debts. 17 of them, one for each person who thought they could steal from me and live. His finger traced the marks, casual, like he was counting change. The man who shorted a shipment, the accountant who skimmed profits, the dealer who cut product with poison and killed 3 customers. The kettle began to whistle. Neither of us moved. He shifted, revealing his left shoulder. A name was written there in elegant script, Lucia, surrounded by roses. "My wife," he said softly, "so she's always with me." Then he touched his chest, just over his heart. A date was inked there, simple and stark. The day my sons were born, the best day of my life. His hand moved to his ribs, where a serpent coiled around a dagger. My first kill. I was 16. A man came for my father. I stopped him. His eyes met mine, unflinching. He wasn't the last. I should have been horrified. Should have backed away, locked myself in my room, called a cab and run back to my cramped apartment and my safe, boring life. Instead, I stepped closer. "How many?" I whispered. "How many what?" "Lives. How many have you taken?" He studied me for a long moment, something dark and assessing in his gaze. Enough that I stopped counting. Not enough that I've forgotten any of their faces. "Does it haunt you?" "Every single one." He said it so matter-of-factly it hurt. But I'd do it again. Every death, every sin, every piece of darkness I've collected on my skin, it bought safety for my family. It built the walls around this house. It keeps my sons alive. The kettle was screaming now. I turned it off, but didn't move to make tea. Couldn't. I was trapped in his gravity, in the brutal honesty of his confession. "This one," he continued, pointing to a crown on his bicep, wrapped in thorns, "is for the day I became head of the family. 23 years old, and I inherited an empire built on blood." His finger trailed to a cross on his other arm. "This is for my mother. She died thinking I was a good man. I let her keep that lie." "You are a good man," I said, and meant it. "You love your sons. You're learning their language. You're trying. I'm a monster who loves his children." His voice dropped lower, rougher. "Don't confuse the two, Mercy. Maybe you're both." He moved closer, near enough that I could feel the heat radiating off his skin, could see the rise and fall of his chest. "You should be afraid of me. I know. You should leave this house. Take the money, break the contract, and run. I know that too. Then why are you still here?" His hand came up, stopping just short of my face, hovering near my cheek like he didn't trust himself to touch me. Why do you look at me like that? Like what? Like you see something worth saving. The air between us crackled with tension so thick I could barely breathe. His eyes dropped to my mouth, then back up, and I saw the war raging in them, want and restraint, hunger and honor. Every mark on my body is a sin, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Every inch of ink is a reminder of what I am, of what I'm capable of. I reached out slowly, giving him time to pull away. He didn't. My fingers touched the tattoo over his heart, the date his sons were born. His skin was warm, and I felt his heartbeat racing beneath my palm. This one isn't a sin, I said. Neither is this. I touched the roses around his wife's name. These are love. Everything else is just survival. His hand finally made contact, fingers sliding into my hair, cupping the back of my neck. You're going to ruin me, or you're going to ruin me. I will. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Everyone close to me gets destroyed eventually. It's what I do. Then maybe I'm already ruined. I looked up at him, at the scarred, tattooed, beautiful monster of a man who read bedtime stories in broken Italian. Maybe that's why I'm not afraid. He made a sound low in his throat, something between a growl and a curse. Mercy, tell me to go. My heart was hammering. Tell me this is a bad idea and I'll go back to my room right now. He stared at me for an endless moment, his thumb stroking the curve of my neck, his body so close I could count the individual tattoos on his chest. Then he stepped back, dropping his hand, putting space between us. Go, he said roughly. Before I forget why I hired you. It felt like a rejection and a salvation all at once. I backed toward the door, my skin still burning where he'd touched me. Sanchez, I said from the doorway. He looked at me, jaw tight, hands clenched at his sides. The tattoos, I said. They don't make you a monster. They make you human. Someone who's survived. Someone who's fought for what he loves. I paused. That's not something to be ashamed of. I left before he could respond, climbing the stairs on shaking legs. Behind me, I heard the sound of glass shattering his water bottle. Maybe. Or his control. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. Neither did he. I could hear him pacing in his room down the hall, the floor creaking under his weight, the sound of a man at war with himself. And I knew, lying there in the dark, that temporary had just become impossible. 6 months wasn't going to be enough. It might not even be survivable. But I wasn't leaving. After the kitchen, Sanchez avoided me. Not obviously, he still showed up for his Italian lessons. Still asked about the twins' day, but there was a carefully maintained distance now. He didn't meet my eyes. Didn't let our fingers brush when I handed him his morning coffee. Kept at least 6 feet between us at all times. It lasted 4 days. On the 5th day, Marco appeared at breakfast with a message. Mr. Ramirez needs to see you in his office. The boys can stay with Maria in the kitchen. Something in his tone made my stomach tighten. The twins didn't notice, too busy explaining their drawing of a dinosaur fighting a dragon to the housekeeper. I followed Marco through the halls, trying to read his expression and finding nothing. Sanchez was standing behind his desk when I entered, dressed in a dark suit that meant business. His face was unreadable. All the vulnerability from the kitchen locked away behind the mask of a man who ran an empire. Sit, he said. I sat, that familiar unease crawling up my spine. What's wrong? Nothing, yet. He pulled a phone from his desk drawer, not his usual one. This was a burner, cheap and disposable. He slid it across to me. Today at 2 o'clock, you're going to receive a call from one of my associates. He's going to offer you money, a significant amount. I stared at the phone. What? $500,000, Sanchez continued, his voice flat and cold. All you have to do is tell him the twins' school schedule, their therapy appointments, the gaps in the security rotation, small details, information that seems harmless. My blood turned to ice. You think I would? I think everyone has a price. He leaned forward, palms on the desk. Yours is $68,000 in medical debt, but maybe it's higher, maybe it's lower. I need to know. This is a test. The words tasted bitter. This is due diligence. His eyes were hard, emotionless. 17 nannies, Mercy. One of them tried to sell my son's location. She's dead now, but the damage was done. We had to relocate for 6 months. The twins still have nightmares about strange men breaking into their bedroom. I stood up, shaking. I would never prove it. He crossed his arms. At 2 o'clock. You'll get the call. How you respond will determine whether you stay or whether Marco escorts you off the property with a severance check. And if I refuse to play your twisted game, then you've already failed. His expression didn't change. I need to know you can be trusted when it matters. When the offer is real, and the stakes are life and death. I wanted to throw the phone at his head, wanted to scream that after 3 weeks of building trust, of bridging the gap between him and his sons, of almost kissing him in his kitchen at 2 in the morning, this was how he repaid me. Instead, I picked up the burner phone and walked out without another word. At 1:45, I was in the twins' playroom, trying to keep my hands from shaking while they built an elaborate fort out of couch cushions. The burner phone sat on the side table like a bomb. At 1:58, the security system made a sound I'd never heard before. A low, pulsing alarm that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Leo and Mateo froze, their faces going white. Mercy? Leo's voice was small, terrified. Cosa está sucedendo? What's happening? Before I could answer, the lights cut out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. The windows slammed shut automatically, heavy metal shutters rolling down with mechanical precision. The door to the playroom sealed with an audible click. Lockdown. Marco's voice crackled over an intercom I hadn't known existed. Security protocol initiated. All personnel to designated safe rooms. This is not a drill. The twins started crying, clutching each other, their small bodies trembling. This wasn't a test of my loyalty. This was a test of everything. I could panic. I could bang on the door and demand to be let out, prove that when danger came, I'd abandon them to save myself. Or I could do what Sanchez actually needed, what the twins needed. I knelt in front of them, taking both their hands. Ascoltate, piccoli. Ascoltate. Listen, little ones. Listen. My voice was calm, steady, even though my heart was racing. Questo è un gioco che vostro papà si fa fare. Un gioco per vedere quanto siamo bravi a nasconderci. This is a game your papa makes us play. A game to see how good we are at hiding. Mateo hiccuped, tears still streaming. Un gioco? A game? Si. I wiped his tears, then Leo's. Siamo agenti segreti, ok? E questa è la nostra base segreta. Dobbiamo restare qui e stare al sicuro finché papà non si dice che il gioco è finito. Yes, we're secret agents, okay? And this is our secret base. We have to stay here and stay safe, until papa tells us the game is over. Leo's tears slowed. Agenti segreti? I migliori. The best. Ma gli agenti segreti non piangono, vero? Devono essere coraggiosi e intelligenti. But secret agents don't cry, right? They have to be brave and smart. They both nodded, sniffling. Bene, good. Allora, costruiamo il forte più sicuro di sempre. Un forte che nessun cattivo può trovare. So, let's build the safest fort ever. A fort no bad guy can find. For the next hour, we built. I draped blankets over their cushion structure, creating a dark cave inside. I grabbed flashlights from the emergency kit mounted on the wall and gave them each one. Secret agent lights. I whispered conspiratorially. I found their tablet and pulled up a white noise app, setting it to ocean sounds. Invisibility shield. If we're very quiet, no one can hear us. Inside the fort, pressed together in the dark with only the glow of flashlights and the sound of waves, the twins forgot to be afraid. Leo asked if secret agents could eat snacks, so I raided the playroom cabinet for crackers and juice boxes. Mateo wanted to know if their papa was a secret agent too. Il migliore, I told him. The best. E lui che si protegge tutti. He's the one protecting all of us. At 3:15, the lockdown ended. The shutters rolled up, the lights came back on, the door unsealed. Marco appeared immediately, his expression unreadable. Miss Cooper, the boys need to come with me. Non vogliamo andare, Mateo said, gripping my hand. We don't want to go. Il gioco non è finito. The game isn't over. Il gioco è finito, tesoro, I said gently. The game is over, sweetheart. Avete vinto. Siete stati I migliori agenti segreti di sempre. You won. You were the best secret agents ever. They hugged me tight before following Marco out, still chattering about the fort and the secret mission. I sat alone in the destroyed playroom, blankets and cushions everywhere, and waited. Sanchez found me 20 minutes later. He stood in the doorway, still in that dark suit, but something had changed in his expression. The coldness was gone, replaced by something raw and almost fragile. You didn't answer the call. he said quietly. I looked at the burner phone, still sitting on the table. No, why not? Because I was busy. Your sons needed me. I met his eyes. Did I pass your test? I watched the footage. His voice was rough. The entire hour, you in the dark with them, making them laugh, keeping them safe. You didn't cry, didn't try to break down the door. You just stayed. Of course I stayed. They're 4 years old, and they were terrified. He moved into the room, stopping a few feet away. The 17th nanny locked herself in the bathroom during a drill, left the twins alone, screaming. She was gone within the hour. I'm not her. No. Something burned in his eyes as he looked at me. You're not. You're exactly what I thought you were in the park. What I hoped you were. He paused. What I've been trying not to need. Sanchez. I watched you with them, Mercy. Watched you turn their fear into a game. Watched you hold them in the dark and make them feel safe in a house designed to keep out danger. His hands clenched at his sides. And all I could think was that I wanted you to make me feel that safe too. The confession hung in the air between us. The call was never going to come, I said, understanding. There was no associate offering money. No, but the lockdown was real. The test was real. He took a step closer. I needed to know if you'd run or if you'd stay. If you'd save yourself or save them. And now you know. Now I know. Another step. And now I'm more dangerous to you than I've ever been. Why? Because I'm not going to let you leave. His voice was dark, possessive. 6 months, 6 years, it doesn't matter anymore. You're mine now. Theirs. Ours. He turned and walked out, leaving me in the wreckage of cushions and blankets, my heart racing for entirely different reasons. The burner phone buzzed. I picked it up. A text from an unknown number. You're either very brave or very stupid. I can't decide which. S. I typed back. Maybe I'm both. His response came immediately. Then God help us all. The invitation appeared on my pillow 3 days later, heavy cardstock with gold embossing. The Ramirez Foundation Annual Charity Gala, black tie, this Saturday. A handwritten note in Sanchez's sharp script. You're expected to attend. Not a request. Never a request with him. I found him in his office that afternoon. I don't do galas. I don't even own a dress that costs more than $40. He didn't look up from his paperwork. That's been handled. What's been handled? Your dress. It'll be delivered tomorrow. He signed something with a flourish. Marco will take you for alterations if needed. I didn't agree to this. The twins asked for you. He finally met my eyes. They want you there. They've never wanted anyone but their mother at these events before. That stopped me. They asked. Begged, actually, Leo cried. Mateo threatened to refuse to go unless you came. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. You've thoroughly won them over. This is a family event, Sanchez. I'm the help. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. You stopped being the help the moment you turned a lockdown into a game. You're coming. End of discussion. The dress arrived the next morning in a box that probably cost more than my monthly rent used to be. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, was a floor-length gown in deep emerald silk that felt like water against my skin. No price tag, but I could guess. The shoes alone, strappy heels and gold, looked like they belonged in a museum. Maria, the housekeeper, whistled low when I tried it on. Mr. Ramirez has good taste. Mr. Ramirez is insane, I muttered, but the dress fit perfectly, like it had been made for me. Which, I realized with a jolt, it probably had been. He'd had me measured without me knowing. The twins were vibrating with excitement when I came downstairs Saturday evening. They wore matching little tuxedos, their hair slicked back, looking like miniature versions of their father. Mercy, say bellissima, you're beautiful. They grabbed my hands, bouncing. Papa, guarda quanto è bella. Papa, look how beautiful she is. Sanchez appeared at the top of the stairs, and I forgot how to breathe. He wore a black tuxedo that fit him like sin, his tattoos hidden except for the ones creeping up his neck. His hair was styled back, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass. But it was the way he looked at me that made my knees weak, like I was something precious and dangerous all at once. He descended slowly, his eyes never leaving mine. When he reached me, he held out his hand. You look beautiful. You bought me, I said quietly. I dressed you. His fingers closed around mine. There's a difference. Though I won't deny the effect is the same. Which is, everyone at that gala will know you're mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have angered me. Instead, it sent heat pooling low in my stomach. I'm not yours. Keep telling yourself that, Carino. He lifted my hand, pressing a kiss to my knuckles that felt like a brand. Let's go. The gala was held at a museum in Manhattan, the kind of place where the art cost more than small countries. We arrived in a convoy of black SUVs, security flanking us on all sides. Inside, crystal chandeliers sparkled over a sea of designer gowns and expensive suits. Old money and new violence, mixing like oil and blood. Sanchez kept his hand on the small of my back, proprietary and clear. The twins flanked us, holding my hands, and I felt the weight of every stare in the room. Who is she? I heard someone whisper. The new nanny, I heard. In a dress like that? That's not a nanny, darling. That's something else entirely. Sanchez's hand tightened on my back, pulling me closer. Ignore them. Hard to ignore when I'm apparently the scandal of the evening. Good. His breath was warm against my ear. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them know you're under my protection. The twins were swept away by Sanchez's mother, a tiny, elegant woman with kind eyes who looked at me with far too much knowing. So you're the one who's finally gotten through to my grandsons. And my son. She patted my cheek. Keep him honest, mija. Then we were alone in the crowd, Sanchez introducing me to faces I'd never remember, names that carried weight and threat in equal measure. Associates, business partners, men who smiled with dead eyes and women who assessed me like competition. I was nursing champagne and trying not to bolt when a man approached. Late 50s, silver hair, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Something about him made my skin crawl. Sanchez, he said, his accent thick. You've brought entertainment to the charity event. How progressive. Sanchez went very still beside me. Valdez, I didn't realize you were invited. I'm always invited. Valdez's eyes dragged over me, slow and insulting. Though I'm surprised you'd bring your whore so publicly. Usually you're more discreet about your pets. The word hit me like a slap. I felt Sanchez's entire body coil, saw his hand move toward his jacket where I knew he kept a gun even in black tie. Sanchez, I said quietly, touching his arm. Don't. She speaks. Valdez laughed, and with such pretty manners. Tell me, sweetheart, how much does he pay you? I might be interested in borrowing. Sanchez moved faster than I could track. One moment he was beside me, the next he had Valdez by the throat, slammed against a marble pillar. The entire ballroom went silent. Say another word, Sanchez said, his voice deadly calm. And I will kill you right here. I don't care about the witnesses. I don't care about the consequences. I will paint these walls with your blood. Sanchez. I moved closer, aware of security converging, of phones being raised. The twins. They'll see. He didn't let go. Apologize to her. You're insane. Sanchez's hand tightened. Valdez made a choking sound. Apologize. Now. I'm sorry, Valdez gasped. Sanchez held him for 3 more seconds, long enough to make his point, then released him. Valdez crumpled, coughing. Sanchez straightened his jacket, his expression glacial. If I ever hear you've spoken her name, he said quietly. If I ever hear you've even thought about her, I will come for you. And I won't make it quick. He took my hand and walked us out of the ballroom like nothing had happened. Behind us, the silence erupted into frantic whispers. We ended up on a terrace overlooking the city, the sounds of the party muffled by glass doors. Sanchez's hands were shaking as he gripped the railing. I almost killed him, he said. In front of 300 people. I almost killed him. But you didn't. Because you stopped me. Because you reminded me my sons were watching. He turned to face me, and the raw violence in his eyes took my breath away. Do you understand what you are now? What wearing my dress, standing at my side, being under my protection means? Tell me. It means anyone who touches you, dies. Anyone who insults you, dies. Anyone who even looks at you wrong will pray I'm in a merciful mood. He moved closer, backing me against the railing. It means I will burn this entire city down before I let anyone hurt you. That's insane. That's who I am. His hands came up to frame my face. That's what you signed up for when you walked into my fortress. When you stayed with my sons. When you put on this dress and let me claim you in front of everyone who matters. I didn't agree to be claimed. You didn't have to. His thumb traced my lower lip. You were mine the moment you spoke Italian to 2 crying boys in a park. You just didn't know it yet. Sanchez. Papa. Leo's voice cut through the tension. He burst onto the terrace, Matteo behind him. Perché siamo dovuti andare via? La nonna dice che hai fatto arrabbiare qualcuno. Why did we have to leave? Grandma says you made someone angry. Sanchez pulled back immediately, his mask sliding into place. Non è niente, ragazzi. It's nothing, boys. Solo un adulto che non sa comportarsi bene. Just an adult who doesn't know how to behave. Come noi quando siamo cattivi. Like us when we're naughty? Matteo asked. Esattamente. Exactly. The twins giggled, the tension broken. They grabbed my hands, pulling me back toward the party, chattering about the dessert table. I looked back at Sanchez. He stood alone on the terrace, watching us with an expression that was equal parts longing and resignation. He'd almost started a war for me, would have, if I hadn't stopped him. And the most terrifying part? I wasn't sure if I wanted him to stop next time. The explosion came 3 days after the gala. Not a literal explosion, though. The way Sanchez stormed through the house at 4 a.m. felt like one. I woke to shouting in Spanish, the sound of doors slamming, heavy footsteps in the hallway. Before I could get out of bed, my door burst open. Sanchez stood there in tactical gear, a gun holstered at his hip, his face a mask of cold fury I'd never seen before. Behind him, Marco and 3 other guards filled the hallway. Pack a bag, Sanchez said, his voice like ice. You have 5 minutes. What? Why? Now, Mercy. He turned to Marco. Get the boys. Full protective detail. We're moving them to the safe house. My heart stopped. What happened? Someone leaked their location. His eyes were dead when they met mine. A rival family knows which park they play in, which bookstore we take them to, their goddamn favorite ice cream shop, everything. Oh my God. I scrambled out of bed. Are they okay? For now. He watched me with an expression I couldn't read. Get dressed. Bring only what you need. He left, and I threw on clothes with shaking hands. Down the hall, I could hear the twins crying, confused and scared. I ran to their room, finding them surrounded by guards while Maria tried to calm them. Mercy! They broke free, launching themselves at me. Cosa sta succedendo? Perché tutti gridano? What's happening? Why is everyone yelling? Okay, Piccoli. Es solo. I started, but Sanchez's voice cut me off. Step away from them. I turned. He stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. Sir, they're scared. I said step away. His hand moved to his weapon, not threatening but ready. Marco, get them to the car. The guards moved in, gently but firmly separating the boys from me. They screamed, reaching for me, but Marco carried them out despite their protests. Sanchez, what are you? You're not going to the safe house. His voice was flat. You're staying here until we figure out who leaked the information. The implication hit me like a physical blow. You think I did this. I think someone did. And you're the newest variable in this house. He stepped closer, and there was nothing of the man who'd almost kissed me in the kitchen, who'd claimed me at the gala. This was the warlord, the killer, the monster he'd warned me about. You came into our lives 5 weeks ago. Now suddenly, information that only people inside this house should know is on the street. I would never. Everyone says that. He pulled out his phone, showing me a photo. It was the twins at the park, taken from a distance with a long lens. The timestamp was from yesterday. This was posted on a dark web forum used by contractors. Hitmen. With an offer of $2 million for whoever brings me my son's heads. I felt the blood drain from my face. No. Someone in this house gave them our routine, our schedules, our security gaps. His jaw tightened. And you're the only one who knows all of it. You're with them every day. You know where they go, when they go, who's watching them. So does everyone else here. Maria, the guards, the driver, who have all been with my family for years, who've been vetted and tested and proven loyal. He moved closer, towering over me. You've been here 5 weeks, Mercy. 5 weeks. And suddenly my son's lives are on the market. I love those boys. My voice broke. I would die before I let anyone hurt them. Love. He said it like it was a curse. The 17th nanny said she loved them too, right before she tried to sell their location for $300,000. I'm not her. Prove it. He gestured to the door. You'll stay in this house under guard. You don't leave. You don't make calls. You don't touch a computer. If you're innocent, the investigation will clear you. If you're not. His expression went cold. Pray I never see you again. He walked out, leaving me alone in the twins' empty room, surrounded by their toys and books and the scent of their strawberry shampoo. I heard the convoy leave 10 minutes later. The house went silent except for the sound of guards changing positions. When I tried to leave my room an hour later, one of them, not Marco, someone new, blocked my path. Mr. Ramirez's orders. You're confined to your quarters until further notice. I was a prisoner. For 3 days, I paced my room like a caged animal. They brought me meals, but I could barely eat. I tried to demand answers, but the guards wouldn't speak to me. My phone was gone. My laptop gone. The lock on my door, the one Sanchez had installed for my safety, now locked from the outside. On the 4th day, my door opened. Not a guard, Sanchez's mother. She looked at me with sad eyes, carrying a tray of food. You need to eat, Mija. Where are they? My voice was hoarse. The boys. Are they safe? Safe. Scared. Asking for you every hour. She set down the tray. Leo won't eat. Mateo has nightmares. They don't understand why you left them. The words shattered me. I didn't leave them. Your son is terrified. She sat on the edge of my bed. A man who is terrified makes bad decisions. He sees threats everywhere, trusts no one. It's how he's survived this long. She took my hand. But you're not a threat. I know this. My grandsons know this. Even Sanchez knows this, deep down. Then why? Because loving you is more terrifying than suspecting you. She smiled sadly. If you're innocent, he can keep you at arm's length. Keep his son safe by keeping you away. But if you're innocent and he's pushed you away... She shook her head. That means he has to face what you've become to this family. What you've become to him. I need to see the boys. You need to wait. She stood. The person who leaked the information will reveal themselves. They always do. Greed makes people careless. She was right. 2 days later, I heard shouting from downstairs, doors slamming. Then, unmistakably, a gunshot. The guard outside my door got a radio call and ran. I seized the moment, slipping out and down the stairs. In the foyer, Sanchez stood over a body. One of the guards I'd seen around but never learned the name of. Blood pooled on the marble floor. $40,000, Sanchez was saying to Marco, his voice shaking with rage. He sold out my sons for $40,000 and a promised job with Valdez's crew. Marco held up a phone. It's all here. The messages, the photos he took, the payment transfers. He's been feeding Valdez information for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Before the gala. Before I'd even been fully integrated into the household. Sanchez looked up and saw me on the stairs. Something cracked in his expression. Mercy. It wasn't me. My voice was steady despite my shaking hands. I told you it wasn't me. He crossed the foyer in 3 strides, taking the stairs 2 at a time. When he reached me, he pulled me into his arms so hard I could barely breathe. I know. God, I know. His voice was muffled against my hair. The timeline doesn't match. He was taking photos before you even moved in. I should have seen it sooner. Should have trusted. I pushed him back. Hard. You locked me in my room for 6 days. 6 days while your sons cried for me. While they thought I abandoned them like everyone else. Mercy. No. Tears streamed down my face. You claimed me at that gala. Made me yours in front of everyone. Then the second things got dangerous. You threw me away like I was nothing. I was protecting them. By hurting them? My voice rose. By taking away the one person who's been keeping them together? That's not protection, Sanchez. That's cruelty. He flinched like I'd struck him. I was wrong. You think? I wiped my tears angrily. I don't care about the money. I don't care about this house or the contract or any of it. I care about 2 little boys who've lost enough people and didn't deserve to lose another one because their father's paranoid. What do you want me to say? Nothing. I moved past him down the stairs. I'm going to the safe house. I'm going to see Leo and Mateo, and if you try to stop me, I will make you regret it. I'll take you. He followed me. They're 20 minutes from here. I'll drive you myself. I stopped at the door, looking back at him. At the blood on his clothes, the gun still in his holster, the exhaustion in his eyes. Why did you really suspect me? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, because if you were guilty, I could let you go. Keep you at a distance. Keep my sons safe from getting too attached. His voice dropped. But if you were innocent, it meant everything I've been feeling is real. And that's more dangerous than any rival family. What you've been feeling? He moved closer, cupping my face in his blood-stained hands. That I'm falling in love with you. That my sons already love you. That losing you would destroy us all. His thumb traced my cheek. I suspected you because I was terrified of how much I needed you to be innocent. That's the most twisted logic I've ever heard. I'm a twisted man." He leaned his forehead against mine. "But I'm a twisted man who's sorry, who's going to spend however long it takes making this right. You start by taking me to your sons, and after that," I looked up at him, at the monster who loved his children, who'd suspected me to protect his heart, who'd just killed a man for betraying his family. "After that, we figure out how to survive this together. Even after what I did, especially after what you did." I took his hand. "Because now I know exactly what I'm dealing with. No more illusions, no more fairy tales, just the brutal, bloody truth." He kissed me then, hard and desperate and tasting like regret. When he pulled back, his eyes were blazing. "You're either the bravest or the most foolish woman I've ever met. You've said that before, and I'm still no closer to figuring out which." "Maybe," I said, leading him toward the garage. "I'm both." We'd been back at the estate for 2 weeks. 2 weeks of Sanchez teaching me to shoot in the basement range, his hands guiding my grip, his voice low in my ear. "You need to know how to protect them if I'm not there." "You're always there," I'd argued. "I won't always be." He was right. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. The twins and I were in the library, reading Il Piccolo Principe, The Little Prince, curled up on the window seat while autumn sun streamed through bulletproof glass. Leo was tracing the illustrations with his finger. Matteo had fallen asleep against my shoulder. The first explosion shook the windows. I jerked upright, heart in my throat. Matteo woke crying. Through the window, I saw smoke rising from the front gate. The security alarm started shrieking, a sound that drilled into my skull. The door burst open. Marco, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead. They breached the perimeter. Multiple hostiles. "Mr. Ramirez is engaging them at the south entrance." He thrust a gun into my hands, the Glock 19 I'd been training with. "Safe room." "Now, what about Sanchez?" "He'll find you. Go." I grabbed both boys, pulling them close. "Andiamo, ragazzi. Adesso." "Let's go, boys. Now." Leo's eyes were wide with terror. "E come gioco? Come gli agenti segreti?" "Is it like the game? Like the secret agents?" My mouth was dry. More explosions outside. Gunfire. The rapid crack, crack, crack of automatic weapons. "Sì, tesoro. Esattamente come il gioco." "Yes, sweetheart. Exactly like the game." We ran into the hallway. Marco led us toward the panic room hidden behind the wine cellar. 2 more guards flanked us, weapons drawn. Behind us, I heard windows shattering, men shouting in Spanish. Then Marco's head snapped back. He crumpled, and I saw the hole in the wall behind him, fresh plaster dust blooming. Someone was shooting from inside the house. "Run!" One of the guards shouted, returning fire down the hallway. "Get them too!" He went down too, just dropped like a puppet with cut strings. I didn't think. I shoved the twins behind me, raised the Glock the way Sanchez had taught me, both hands, steady grip, breathe, and fired at the figure emerging from the smoke. The recoil shocked me. The sound was deafening, but the man went down. Mercy. Leo was sobbing. Matteo had his face buried in my side. "Chiudete gli occhi," I commanded. "Close your eyes." "Non guardate. Non importa cosa sentite. Non guardate." "Don't look. No matter what you hear, don't look." The wine cellar was 20 feet away. Might as well have been 20 miles. Between us and safety, 2 more men appeared. Not guards. These wore black tactical gear with no insignia. Valdez's men. I fired again. Missed. Adjusted like Sanchez had drilled into me 1,000 times. Fired. One man stumbled. The other raised his weapon toward us. A burst of gunfire erupted behind me. The man dropped. I spun. Saw another guard, young. Couldn't be more than 25, waving us forward. "Go. I'll cover you." We ran. The twins were crying, stumbling. I half-carried, half-dragged them. Behind us, more gunfire. A scream. I didn't look back. The wine cellar was chaos. Shattered bottles, wine bleeding across the floor like the guards outside. The hidden door was open. Marco must have unlocked it before. Dentro. I shoved the twins through. Inside. The panic room was small, reinforced steel, with monitors showing feeds from around the property. I could see the carnage. Bodies on the lawn, fire engulfing the garage, men in black moving through the house with military precision, and Sanchez, surrounded by 4 men at the south terrace, fighting like something inhuman. He moved like death, like violence given form. 2 men down already. But more were coming. I slammed the panic room door. It sealed with a hydraulic hiss. The lock engaged automatically. We were safe. Trapped, but safe. The twins were hysterical, clinging to me, their small bodies shaking. Dove papa? Vogliamo papa. Where's papa? We want papa. Lo so. I know. I pulled them onto my lap, wrapping myself around them. On the monitors, I watched Sanchez take down another man. But he was bleeding now. His shirt was dark with it. Then I saw them. 3 more men entering through the library, heading toward the wine cellar, toward us. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the gun. I had 7 rounds left. Maybe 8. Sanchez had made me practice reloading, but my mind was blank with terror. Mercy? Leo's voice was tiny. Ci proteggerai? Will you protect us? I looked down at their identical faces, wet with tears, trusting me to keep them safe. These boys who'd lost their mother, who'd been abandoned by 17 nannies, who'd given me their hearts when I'd done nothing to earn them except speak their language and refuse to leave. Si, I said, and meant it. Yes. Sempre. Always. On the monitor, the 3 men reached the wine cellar. They were searching, weapons raised. One of them found the hidden door, called the others over. They had tools, cutting equipment. They were coming in. I set the twins in the corner. Restate qui. Non usite, non importa cosa. Stay here. Don't come out no matter what. I positioned myself in front of the door, gun raised, just like Sanchez had shown me. Feet shoulder width apart, arms extended. Breathe. The cutting torch sparked to life on the monitor. They were burning through the locks. Where was Sanchez? I flicked through the camera feeds frantically. The south terrace was empty, bodies everywhere, but no Sanchez. Dead or alive, I couldn't tell. The door began to glow red where they were cutting. Smoke filled the panic room, triggering the ventilation system. The twins were crying, but quietly now, like they understood that silence meant survival. Ti amo, piccoli, I whispered. I love you, little ones. If these were my last words, they needed to hear that. Vostro papà vi ama. Io vi amo. Siete I bambini più coraggiosi del mondo. Your papa loves you. I love you. You're the bravest children in the world. The first lock gave way with a shriek of metal. Then the second. The door was reinforced, but they were cutting through it like butter. 30 seconds. Maybe less. I raised the gun. My hands had stopped shaking. Some distant part of me marveled at that. I was about to possibly kill 3 men, and I was calm, because they were between me and those boys. And nothing was getting through me to hurt them. 20 seconds. The door glowed brighter. I could hear voices now, muffled but excited. They thought they'd won. 10 seconds. I flicked off the safety. Sanchez's voice in my head. First shot center mass. You won't have time for headshots. Just put them down. 5 seconds. The door burst inward, smoke billowing. A man came through, weapon first. I fired. He went down. The second man appeared, saw me, started to raise his gun. I fired again, and again. He stumbled back into the third man. Then the third man aimed at me, and I knew I was going to die. I'd practiced shooting targets, not living, breathing men who shot back. My hands were shaking again. I was going to miss. A shot rang out, but not from his gun, from behind him. He dropped, and Sanchez stepped over his body. He was covered in blood, his own and others. His shirt was in tatters, revealing tattoos I'd traced with my fingers in the dark. He had a gun in each hand and death in his eyes. Then he saw me, saw the gun in my hands, saw the body at my feet. His expression cracked. Mercy. I lowered the weapon slowly. My whole body was shaking now, the adrenaline draining away all at once. They were coming for the boys. He crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling me against him with bruising force. You protected them. You stayed. You fought. I told you I would. Papa! The twins exploded from the corner, throwing themselves at Sanchez. He dropped to his knees, gathering them close with one arm while keeping the other around me. His face was buried in their hair, his shoulders shaking. Siete al sicuro. Siete al sicuro. He kept repeating. You're safe. You're safe. Around us, the house was silent. The gunfire had stopped. Through the smoke, I could see Marco's guards securing the perimeter, medical teams arriving, the dead being counted. Is it over? I asked. Sanchez looked up at me, and I saw the truth in his eyes. For now, but they'll come again. They always come again. Then we'll be ready. I touched his face, feeling the stubble, the blood, the heat of him. All of us, together. He pulled me down into his arms. The four of us huddled in the ruins of safety, surrounded by smoke and death and the slowly returning sound of the world outside. I'm sorry, he said against my hair. For everything you've had to become to stay with us. I looked at the gun still in my hand. At the man I'd shot, who'd been someone's son once, someone's brother maybe. At the twins who were alive because I'd pulled the trigger. I'm not, I said, and discovered I meant it. I'd do it again. I'd do worse. That's what terrifies me. His grip tightened. That I've made you like me. No. I kissed him, tasting blood and smoke and survival. You've made me like us. Later, after the bodies were removed and the fires extinguished and the twins finally cried themselves to sleep between us in Sanchez's bed, he touched the bruise forming on my shoulder from the gun's recoil. You were magnificent, he said quietly. Terrifying and magnificent. I was scared out of my mind. Fear didn't stop you. That's the difference between courage and stupidity. His fingers traced the bruise gently. You're definitely brave, Mercy Cooper. That question's answered. And stupid. Don't forget stupid. That too. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I almost lost you today. All of you. But you didn't. I threaded my fingers through his. We're here. We're alive. We're together. For how long? His voice broke. How many more attacks? How many more times do you have to kill to keep them safe? When does it end? It doesn't, I said simply. This is the life you built. The life I chose when I signed that contract. When I stayed after you suspected me. When I picked up that gun. You could still leave, take the money, disappear. And do what? Go back to my empty apartment and pretend I never loved them? Never loved you? I shook my head. That's not an option anymore. Then God help you. He pulled me closer. The twins curled between us, his family finally complete and more fragile than ever. Because I don't think I can. Good thing I don't need God, I whispered. I just need you to teach me better aim. His laugh was broken, but real. You're insane. I know. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of what I'd done, what I'd become, what I'd chosen. But you're insane. And that's all that matters. Outside, the sun rose over the shattered estate. Inside, 4 people who shouldn't have worked together slept, holding on to each other like the world was ending. Maybe it was. But we'd face it together. The doctor finished stitching the gash across Sanchez's ribs 3 hours after sunrise. 17 stitches to match the 17 tally marks on his arm. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. You need rest, the doctor said, packing his supplies. He was ancient, clearly the family's private physician who'd seen worse. No strenuous activity for at least 2 weeks. Sanchez nodded, but we both knew it was a lie. Men like him didn't rest. They survived or they died. The twins were with his mother in the guest house, the only structure on the property that hadn't been damaged. I'd kissed them goodbye an hour ago, promising I'd be there when they woke up. Now I sat in Sanchez's bedroom, watching him try not to wince as he buttoned a fresh shirt. Stop, I said. You're bleeding through the bandage. I'm fine. You're stubborn. I crossed to him, unbuttoning what he'd just done. And you're staying in this bed for at least today. His hands caught mine. Mercy, we need to talk. Something in his tone made my stomach drop. About what? About this. Us. What happened yesterday? He pulled away, moving to the window that overlooked what used to be a garden and was now a crime scene. You killed a man. 3 men. Don't. His voice was sharp. Don't make it sound casual. Don't pretend it doesn't change you. It does change me. I know that. I moved closer. But it doesn't change how I feel about. It should. He spun to face me, and the anguish in his eyes stole my breath. You took a life yesterday, Mercy. 3 lives. Because of me. Because I brought you into this world and made you believe it was survivable. It is survivable. We're still here. For how long? His voice rose. How long until the next attack? The next ambush? How long until it's not them dying, but you? Or worse, them. He gestured toward where the twins slept. I can't. I won't watch you die for my sins. Then don't watch. Fight with me instead. No. The word came out hard, final. I'm letting you go. Silence filled the room like poison gas. What? Your contract ended yesterday. 6 months, we agreed. You fulfilled it. More than fulfilled it. He pulled an envelope from his desk drawer, held it out. This is your payment. The full amount, plus a bonus for services rendered during the attack. It's enough to disappear. Start over somewhere safe. I didn't take the envelope. You're firing me. I'm freeing you. His hand shook slightly. From this house, from my family, from me, you get to have a life, Mercy. A real one, not this nightmare. And the boys? Something broke in his expression. They'll survive. They've survived worse. Have they? I moved closer, anger rising. They've lost their mother, run off 17 nannies, been attacked in their own home. And now you want to take away the one person who's made them feel safe again? They'll recover. Will you? I closed the distance between us. Because this isn't about them, is it? This is about you. About your guilt, your fear. I have every right to be afraid. His voice cracked. I watched you hold a gun yesterday. Watched you shoot men without hesitation. Watched you become exactly what I am, a killer, and I hate myself for it. I don't. You should. Why? I grabbed his face, forcing him to look at me. Because I protected your children? Because I refused to let them die? Because I chose them over some moral high ground? Because you deserve better than this. He pulled away, pacing like a caged animal. You deserve a man who takes you to normal dinners, not charity galas where rivals insult you. You deserve a home without panic rooms and armed guards. You deserve children who can go to parks without security details. I don't want normal. My voice rose to match his. I want them. I want you. I want this broken, dangerous, impossible family. You don't know what you're saying. I killed 3 men yesterday. The words hung between us. I looked them in the eyes and pulled the trigger because they were between me and those boys. Does that sound like someone who doesn't know her own mind? He stared at me, chest heaving, the fresh bandage already spotted with blood. I can't give you the life you deserve. I don't want the life I deserve. I want this life. With you. With them. I moved closer, my voice dropping. 6 months ago, I was drowning in debt, alone in a city that didn't care if I lived or died. Then 2 boys started crying in a park, and everything changed. Mercy. I love them, Sanchez. The words came out fierce, certain. I love Leo's laugh when he gets a joke. I love the way Mateo hums while he draws. I love how they both still check to make sure I'm there before they fall asleep. I touched his chest, feeling his heartbeat under my palm. And I love you. Your darkness, your violence, your terrible, fierce protection of everyone you love. I don't want to leave. I refuse to leave, even if it kills you, especially if it kills me. I held his gaze, because dying for them would mean more than living for anything else. He broke then. Pulled me against him so hard I felt his stitches strain. His face buried in my hair, his body shaking. You're insane. I know. You're going to get hurt, or worse. Probably. I can't protect you from what I am. From this life. I'm not asking you to. I pulled back enough to look at him. I'm asking you to let me choose. Let me stay. Let me be part of this family. Not as the governess or the nanny, but as whatever we are. His thumb traced my cheek. And what are we? I don't know yet. I smiled through the tears I hadn't realized were falling. But I want to find out. 6 months wasn't enough. 6 years might not be enough, but I'm not leaving to find out. He kissed me then, slow and deep and tasting like goodbye inverted into hello. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. I can't pay you anymore, he said. It wouldn't be right. Not for what you are to us now. Good. I don't want your money. I can't give you a normal life. I don't want normal. I can't promise you safety. I don't need promises. I kissed him again. I just need you to let me stay. He rested his forehead against mine. You're going to be the death of me, Mercy Cooper. Or the life of you. I touched the fresh stitches gently. Now get in that bed before you bleed out and make me a widow before I'm even a bride. His laugh was startled, genuine. Bride? Too soon. By about 20 years. But he was smiling, though I suppose given our timeline, rushing things is on brand. We did cover 6 months of relationship development in 6 weeks. We're efficient. He let me guide him to the bed, wincing as he lay down. I curled up beside him, careful of his injuries. The envelope, he said after a moment. The money. It's still yours, for everything you've been through. Put it in a trust for the boys. Mercy. I'm serious. I don't want it. I laced my fingers through his. I didn't stay for money. I stayed for love. For family. For this. I gestured between us. Whatever this is. Insanity mostly. That works. He was quiet for a long moment, his thumb tracing circles on my hand. I'll have papers drawn up, making it official. You're not staff anymore. You're family? More than that. His eyes met mine. You're mine. Theirs. Ours. Legally, if you want it. So if anything happens to me, nothing's happening to you. If it does, he continued, you'll be their guardian. You'll have access to everything they need. My mother will help, but you'll be their mother in all the ways that matter. My throat tightened. Sanchez. Say yes. His voice was rough. Say you'll take them if I fall. Say you'll keep them safe. Yes. I didn't hesitate. Always yes. He pulled me closer, and we lay there as the sun climbed higher, the sounds of reconstruction beginning outside. The estate could be rebuilt, the security improved, the dead buried, and the survivors compensated. But this, the four of us, bound together by violence and love and choice, this was already unbreakable. I love you, he said quietly. I should have said it sooner. Before you had to kill for us. Before I tried to push you away. You can say it now. I love you, Mercy Cooper, my son's protector, my conscience, my salvation. He kissed my temple. My family. I love you too, I whispered. My monster. My home. Outside, the world was still dangerous, still dark, still full of men like Valdez who wanted what we had. But inside, in a bed stained with blood and tears and truth, we were finally whole. 6 months later, Riverside Park looked exactly the same. The same joggers, the same tourists, the same New Yorkers, studiously ignoring everyone around them. But everything was different. Mercy! Guarda! Watch! Leo shouted from the playground, hanging upside down from the monkey bars. Senza mani! No hands! Sto guardando! I'm watching. I called back, my hand finding Sanchez's on the bench between us. The security detail was better now, invisible but present. Marco, recovered from his gunshot wound, was at the coffee cart, pretending to order while his eyes scanned the perimeter. 3 more guards spread throughout the park, dressed as fathers, joggers, students, the illusion of normalcy backed by the reality of protection. Papa, vieni. Come, Matteo waved from the slide. Dobbiamo mostrarti qualcosa. We have to show you something. Sanchez squeezed my hand before standing, moving with only the slightest hitch from the scar tissue on his ribs. The tattoo artist had incorporated the scar into a new design, a phoenix rising from ashes, with 2 small handprints over his heart. Leo and Matteo's prints, made permanent. I watched him jog to the playground, his sons climbing him like a tree, their laughter bright and clear. No tears today, no terror, just joy. My phone buzzed. A text from his mother. Dinner at 7? I'm making the boys' favorite. I typed back. We'll be there. Should I bring wine? Her response. Bring yourself, Misha. That's all we need. The ring on my finger caught the light, simple platinum with small diamonds. Not an engagement ring, not yet, but a promise ring, a symbol of intent, of choice. They're beautiful together, a voice said beside me. I looked up to find an elderly woman, feeding pigeons, smiling at the scene. He's a good father, the best, I said, and meant it. And you? You're the mother? I hesitated. Then, I'm working on it. She nodded knowingly. Love makes families, not blood. Those boys are lucky to have you both. She moved on, leaving me with the truth of her words. We weren't a conventional family. We were built from loss and violence and desperate choices. But we were a family nonetheless. Sanchez returned, the twins racing ahead to the swings. He slid back onto the bench, his arm around my shoulders, pulling me close. What are you thinking about? He asked. That day, I said, 6 months ago. When I found them crying right here. Terrible day. Best day. His hand found mine again, fingers interlacing. You ruined my life, Mercy Cooper. You ruined mine first. Fair. He kissed my temple. No regrets? I watched the twins play, their guards watching over them, the city moving around us in beautiful, chaotic indifference. I thought about the men I'd killed, the blood I'd spilled, the person I'd become. Not a single one, I said. You? Only that I didn't find you sooner. His hand tightened on mine. That they had to suffer so long before you walked into our lives. I was right on time, I said. Exactly when all of us needed each other most. Mercy, Papa, Leo called. Vieni a giocare. Come play. We stood together, walking toward the swings where our children waited. His hand never left mine. The guards tracked our movement. The city kept spinning. And for the first time since I'd knelt on this concrete 6 months ago to comfort 2 crying boys, I felt something I'd stopped believing in. Peace. Not the kind that meant safety. Not the kind that promised easy days ahead. But the kind that came from knowing exactly who you were, and who you loved, and who you'd kill to protect. "Race you," Sanchez said, grinning like a boy himself. "You're still recovering. I'm fine. You're competitive." But I was already running, his laughter chasing me across the grass toward the twins who waited with open arms. Behind us, Marco shook his head, speaking into his radio. Primary and secondary are mobile, maintaining visual, but his smile betrayed him. Even security guards could see what we'd become. A family. Unlikely and dangerous and absolutely unbreakable. Exactly as it should be. Fine.